الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. أما بعد, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala tells us in His glorious book in Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17 and verse 67, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذا مسكم الضر في البحر ضل من تدعون إلا إياه فلما نجاكم إلى البر أعرضتم وكان الإنسان كفورا. And when the adversity touches you at sea, lost are all those you invoke except for Him. But when He delivers you to the land, you turn away from Him, and ever is man ungrateful. Difficulties in this life are inevitable, and they are actually a good thing in a lot of cases. They are the vehicles that Allah uses to drive us to Him. And the example in many verses in the Quran uses the sea. You know, if you ever was in the sea, in a storm, or on a plane, and the plane starts getting turbulence and goes up and down, even the atheist will call upon Allah for help. Because they know, ضَلَّ مَن تَدْعُونَ إِلَّا إِيَّهِ. Everybody else who you think can help you will be out of your mind. You are not going to think of them because you know they can't help you. Family can't help you. Your money can't help you. Your cell phone can't help you. The plane is going to go down, is going to crash. Is there anybody else other than Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala that you can call on that would help you? No. And this is by human nature. I mean, this is the nature that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created in man to use these difficulties to drive man to Him. So we would ask Allah, we would go, we would plead with Him, we would ask for His help, and they would help, and He would help us. And this back and forth, when you call upon Allah and He responds, that develops, something internally that says, yes, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will help me if I ask Him, so I'm going to ask Him more. So this weakness is an advantage, not a weakness, not a defect in the human creation. Allah created us perfect, and this weakness is from the perfection of His creation. In Surah An-Naml, chapter 27 and verse 62, Allah says, أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Is He not best who responds to the desperate one when he calls upon Him and removes evil and makes you inheritors of the earth? Is there a deity with Allah? Little do you remember. Al-Muttar is somebody who is put in a very difficult situation. He is in a very difficult situation. Could be health-wise, could be family-wise, could be job-wise, could be whatever it is. Somebody in dire straits, in a very bad difficulty. Allah says, أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ. Who's going to answer such a person other than Allah? Is there any other deity beside Allah that you can call upon when you're in trouble that's going to help you? No. قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. So Allah is wise. He puts us in these difficult situations many times to drive us towards Him. So you would go, because if you are, and notice about a lot of people, when they're healthy, wealthy, they don't have a care in the world, everything is wonderful in this world, they forget about Allah. When do they remember about Allah? When they get in trouble, when they get a sickness, when they think they're going to lose their job, or somebody's got a bad disease. That's when people run to Allah. So, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala uses these wisely to drive us to Him. In Surah Ghafir, chapter 14, verse 60, Allah says, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. And your Lord says, call upon me, I will respond to you. Indeed, those who disdain my worship will enter hell, rendered contemptible. Making a dua, asking Allah for help, going to Allah is an order. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي. He ordered us to call Him so He would respond. And if you think about it, when you're making a dua, what are you doing? You're acknowledging that Allah exists. He hears you. He loves you. And He can reply, he can get you out of, he can give you whatever you're asking for. That's what dua says. It's not just words you say, it's what the heart, the state of the heart when you're making this dua. And people who do not call upon Allah, Allah says, I'm gonna throw them in hell. Why? Because they don't acknowledge the presence of Allah. What you think you're beyond help? Only Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala doesn't need anyone. The rest of us, we always need Allah for our next breath. So it's an order from Allah, and Allah's door is always open. 24/7. You don't have to worry about taking an appointment or standing in line. There is no line. Allah is always available for us to call upon Him. He loves us. He hears us. When you ask Allah for something, He hears you. And He wants to help us. And the options we have two options. You can either go to His door willingly, or He can push you to His door with difficulties. That's the two options we have. So it's better to go willingly to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, acknowledge Him, ask Him in times of ease and in times of difficulty. Don't remember Allah in times of difficulty and forget about Him in times of ease. That's bad. That's bad behavior. Allah is not going to respond. So we have to remember Him in times of ease and acknowledge all the goodness that we have, that He has provided. And so He would remember us when we get in trouble and we need His help. So when Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, when you call upon Him and He responds, it develops a higher level of connection with Him. Now you know that there is a Rabbul Alameen, that He loves me and He got me out of trouble before, He'll get me out of trouble again. So that establishes that stronger faith. Because now you know that if you call upon Allah, He will respond, if provided you have the right conditions. In Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, in verse 186, Allah says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. And when my servants ask you, O Muhammad, concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me. So let them respond to me with obedience and believe in me, that they may be rightly guided. In all other verses where it was mentioned, and they ask you, O Prophet, the return says, Qul, say, except in this verse. In this verse, the reply went directly from Allah, signifying that when you make a supplication to Allah, there is no intermediate. It's a direct call to Allah. So, language matters. So when Allah did not say, Qul inni qareeb, He said, Inni qareeb. I am available, I'm near. And when you ask Allah, you don't have to explain your situation. He knows your situation. He knows you don't even have to say anything. All you have to say in your heart, you say, Ya Allah, help me. You don't have to tell, if you have to go to somebody for help, you have to explain to them your situation. Not with Allah. Allah knows exactly what you're going through. He knows the battles you're fighting and nobody else is aware of. He knows. And He can respond. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is with us. He sees us. He hears us. He knows us. He knows us better than ourselves. So every Muslim calls upon Allah. But some people, think that their prayers are not answered. And some people, they pray and say, nothing happened. I keep praying, I keep making dua, and nothing happens. Well, there is a caveat to making a dua. First of all, patience is required. When you make a sincere dua to Allah, that is worthy of replying to, He will reply in His due time, in the right portion, in the right amount, at the right time, because Allah is Hakim. You don't get the answer right away. Sayyidina Ibrahim, when he asked for somebody to come in and guide the people of Mecca, his prayer was answered thousands of years later. But it will be answered. So patience is required because Allah is wise. He knows when is the best time to give you what you're asked for, or even something even better. Second, there is conditions attached when you're making a supplication, because sometimes Allah will not respond. And Allah has given us all of the Quran. In the Quran, we have the rules. Dealing with Allah is very straightforward. If you want Him to respond, what should we do? If I make my dua, what should I do for my dua to be accepted? Well, in Surah Al-A'raf, in chapter 7, verse 55, Allah says, "Ud'u rabbakum tadarru'an wa khufyatan, innahu la yuhibbul mu'tadin." Call upon your Lord in humility and privately. Indeed, He does not like the transgressors. So you make the call to Allah with all sincerity and all humility, knowing that you are the servant and He is the master. You are weak and He is the strong. That's the first condition. You don't call upon Allah thinking that, you don't need anyone. No, you need Allah. So that's one. The second one is, إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. If the income is illegal, if you're hurting your family, hurting your spouse, taking what doesn't belong to you, mu'tadeen, a transgressor. If you are a transgressor, Allah doesn't love you, doesn't like you, doesn't like your behavior, and He will not respond to the prayers of people who are transgressors. So that's the first thing. So you have to make sure that when you make the call to Allah, your income is from halal, you're not hurting anyone, you're being a good, obedient servant of Allah, He will respond. So that's one. The other clue was in the verse that I mentioned earlier, أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. So that's the other clue is أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. First of all, you have to call upon Him for Him to respond. Because إِذَا دَعَانِ, if you don't call upon Allah, Allah is not going to respond to you. That's logical. But the second part, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. We have to respond to Allah with obedience, with faith, with good behavior, with good manners. If we respond to Allah in that manner, He will respond to our prayers in the manner that we like. Be how Allah wants you to be, He will respond to you like you would like Allah to respond to you. So, and one cannot respond to Allah. We cannot respond with obedience if we don't know who Allah is. That's the first thing. The first thing is to know who is it that you're calling. You have to learn about His mercy, His power, His beautiful names. This knowledge doesn't come, I keep repeating this statement, but it's worthy. The knowledge does not come by osmosis. You have to put the effort to know who it is that you're calling. Who is Rabb al-Alameen? The iman comes before taqwa. Before you can do taqwa, before you can do things that obey Allah, you have to know who it is that you're obeying, who it is that you're worshiping. So the knowledge comes first. Do we know what reward He has if we were obedient? Do we know what punishment He has if we disobey Him? The person who disobeys Allah does not know Him. I mean, let's not dance around the topic. The one who disobeys Allah does not know Him. It's not a matter of it's a small sin or a big sin. It's a sin. And who are you sinning against? You're sinning against Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So that comes from a lack of knowledge of who Allah is and what He can do to you if you're not an obedient servant. So knowledge of Allah is key. And we have to respond to Allah, to His orders, to His prohibitions, if we hope that He would respond to our prayers. So you got two options. Either if you are behaving and you're praying and nothing is happening, then you have to have patience because it will come. But if you are a transgressor, you need to mend your ways for Allah to answer your prayers. So the one who disobeys Allah does not know who Allah is. And if you don't know who Allah is, you're not going to obey Him. And if you don't obey Him, you have no hope of Him responding to your prayers. So we have to believe in Allah tabaraka ta'ala, truly believe in Allah, not just conceptually that He is Allah. No, He is Rabbul Alameen. And we have to respond to Him فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. You have to believe in him and respond to him with obedience and steadfastness. And if we do that and observe the lawful and unlawful, then he will respond to our dua. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم.